Now recording the first session in the Business Climate Leaders segment of the Business and Economy track of the California Regional Conference. I was told to put that at the beginning of the recording. It's just gonna make it easier for whoever's doing the post-processing.
One of those clappers with the.
That's right. Oh yeah, you're right, with the little.
Yeah.
Cool.
Scene 25, take 14.
Oh, this is great. People are introducing themselves in the chat. I love it. Very cool. All right. Well, Bruce, right at 2 o'clock, you can just.
Yeah, I'm watching my little clock now.
There you go.
1:58 p.m. Are you hearing this?
Yes.
Oh, good.
A little tap, tap, tap. Yep.
Yeah, I've got a real microphone.
Cool.
So make sure it's using that.
So are you going to play harmonica for us? Ah, I knew you would.
Of course.
So cool. Ooh,
it's not too shrill, is it?
It's fabulous as always.
Yep. So if anybody's wondering what's my backdrop, that's my library. It's the Library of Congress, right across from the Capitol building. And I had the pleasure of being in there once. You know, when I was working on the Hill, I used to commute by the Library of Congress and the Supreme Court. Okay, look, it's 2 o'clock and it's time for business climate leaders stepping up on climate. Yeah, there you go. Let's have a joyful day. And I'll introduce myself. I'm Bruce Hagan, co-founder of CCL's Business Climate Leaders Action Team. We're celebrating our 6th birthday this very month. Back in February 2015, we gathered about 300 people at the Marriott in San Francisco to hear a diverse panel of climate leaders answer the question, can Republicans and Democrats agree on carbon pricing? And of course, they said yes. And I think this will be the year that we hope to prove them right. So now the BCL Action Team, it's a project of CCL, Shannon and Courtney, if you don't know, we have almost 600 members and people are doing a lot of incredible stuff. So about me, well, if you went to DC to lobby for Senator Bob Packwood's solar tax credits bill in 1979, you probably would have met with me unless you were a major donor to his campaign. Since then, I've been a technology program manager and sustainability manager for a variety of companies, electric utilities, telecom, consumer electronics, and most recently solar and phase energy in my hometown here, with volunteer side jobs as a community environmental organizer and newspaper columnist, also father of 3 and now grandfather of 2, soon to be 3. So, and I started with CCL back in 2012. Before I introduce the guest, I have a few important announcements. CCL and BCL are putting on a Business Advocates for Carbon Pricing event on April 13th. It's going to be a national conference, and we're going to bring in some serious and important speakers, but more importantly, we're going to try to use this as an opportunity to invite all of our business supporters in the chapters, in the districts, so we can basically get them ready for our June lobbying event. CCL or BCL is doing a 2-hour training on March 20th for Californians, but anybody can come. That's from 11 to 1. Harold Hedelman, you may know, put together this incredible 50-slide deck, has all of the latest information that you'd want to use for outreach and meetings with business and other grass tops leaders. And last of all, I want to give a big shout out to my Sonoma County friends at the Climate Center. These folks are basically writing the instruction manual for how a state can fulfill its role in climate solutions. They've been great partners. They've endorsed the EICDA. And I ask that those of you on the call who haven't already joined them and put your name in as an endorser, do so. It's the Climate Center, Climate Safe California. So the goal of today is a very selfish goal for CCL. We want these two women to help motivate and empower you for success in business advocacy and engagement as well. The two people we have, Shannon Seart, she is the manager of climate strategy and sustainability initiatives at Hewlett Packard Enterprise. And Carl tells me she is like one of the major driving forces behind CCL's groundbreaking work with the Silicon Valley Leadership Group. And if you haven't heard about them, you should, because this is probably the most significant industry group that is behind what we are doing with carbon pricing in Congress. Courtney Cochran, she is Director of PR and Corporate Communications with Fetzer Vineyards up here in my part of the world, wine country. If you don't know Fetzer, they have been at the environmental and climate and sustainability and justice for decades now. And Courtney has been just so super ready to help us work in organizing the wine industry to support the EICDA. So at that, I am going to stop sharing my screen and we'll start talking to these two people. And Carl, do you have anything you want to say about questions or any of that sort of stuff?
Well, just feel free, folks, to drop questions in the chat as they occur to you. We'll do our best to catch them, and appreciate everyone's been introducing themselves, so that's cool. But yeah, we have two great guests, and as your questions occur to you, please drop them in the chat. Thanks.
All right. Okay, thanks everybody. So I'd like each of you to tell us a little bit about yourself, your company, your role there, and how you came to be working with CCL Business Climate Leaders. So raise your hand, who wants to go first?
Bruce, I can jump in, and I wonder, is this a good time to show a few slides?
Sure. Yep.
Okay. All right. Can everyone see the screen? Excellent. I love it. So Courtney Cochran, I've been with Fetzer Vineyards for 5 years. I've been in the wine industry for quite a bit longer than that. And I really have come to get to know the advocacy space and the sustainability space generally since arriving here. So I lead communications, but at a business where sustainability is such a key piece of who we are and what we're all about, you can easily understand that this is something that we really focus on. So it's been wonderful for me to be able to dive in. So just a few things here. We've been around since 1968. Our founder, Barney Fetzer, had this idea that what's good for the earth is good for the grape. We've been leading within the wine industry that for that whole time in different ways. Let me see here if I can also get the, I've got a little issue with the advancing of the slide. All right, let me go back right here. Okay, so since 1968, of course, we're 50 plus years young. Today, we're owned by Viña Conchatora, which is based in Santiago, Chile. So we are based up here where the star is in Mendocino, California. And we also import wines from our parent company, which is based in Chile. So we're a marketer in the US of wine from 3 origins, and we're part of the 5th largest wine company in the world. Again, I've got the translation in front of my advancing icon, so bear with me. Some quick milestones. The first California winery to operate on 100% renewable energy back in 1999. First wine company to publicly report our emissions to the climate registry. We are zero waste since 2014, the largest wine company in the world to be a B Corporation, held to really high standards for transparency and accountability to planet and people, as well as the bottom line. Certified carbon neutral, and we've been recognized by the United Nations at the COP conference for our climate solutions work within the wine industry. So we think about not so much sustaining the world as regenerating it. So we want to go beyond the status quo of maintaining where we are, which we all know is not adequate, to regenerating the earth. And so as a farming-based organization with over 1,000 acres farmed organically, we are certainly well positioned to do that. Let me advance here. In just last year in October, we declared a climate emergency, and we did this because we want to sort of drop a pin and let everyone know that we're driving toward reversing the way that we do business to give back more than we take. We also have this climate positive by 2030 goal as part of that climate emergency, and that declaration, I'll add, precipitated our work with BCL. So we're new to BCL and very happy to be participating. A couple more slides here, bear with me. Okay, you may recognize one of our brands, Bonterra. This is the leading wine in the US from organically farmed grapes, recognized last year by the wine industry as California's Green Medal winner in the environment category. I'm also going to share a slide about our flagship Fetzer, which is going through a refresh this year. We're really looking to offer consumers sustainability at every price point. This is a wine that's widely available. Many of you will recognize this, but it has a new look. We're looking to not only continue to engage with our loyal consumers who've been with us for a long time, but to also create a bridge to younger consumers and Gen Z and millennial who are really intrigued by sustainability. So on our package, we've now put on the back label some really basic infographic-esque communication points about why we're sustainable. And we're hoping that that will help us to continue to break through with consumers, not only at the higher price point with Bonterra, which is organically farmed, but also at this price point, talking about responsible sourcing, water, resource use, and the like. Of course, the reason we're here today, this is my final slide, is that we engage in advocacy work for climate policy. I have my pin here from when I went to Washington, D.C. to advocate for a price on carbon in 2019 on Capitol Hill. And you can see our leaders here advocating in different spots. And we're very, very devoted to the work that we do in this area. And we're also always learning. So we're also humble and recognize that we need to do this with others. And the business voice for climate is certainly one that we've seen when wielded collectively to have a lot of power and impact and influence. So I would encourage you all, if you want to learn more about Fetzer Vineyards, to look at our corporate consciousness report called Mapping the Road. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to Shannon.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Courtney. And apologies that I didn't guide you on the fact that live transcript appearing on your control panel has a little up chevron, and you could hit that to hide subtitles. So at this point, that's more.
I've never seen that before, and I've done this so many times. So
I know, I apologize.
Thanks everyone for bearing with me with my slow advancing.
No worries. So, but for Shannon's benefit now.
Yeah, that is a pretty cool feature at the bottom, I have to say. So hello everyone, I'm Shannon Seart. I am the manager of climate strategy and sustainability initiatives at Hewlett Packard Enterprise. I reside within the Living Progress team at HPE, which is HPE's corporate sustainability team. I've been with the company for 3 years. However, my entire career has really been in sustainability. So I've been doing this work for 10 years now since leaving grad school. Believe it or not, my first several years was doing sustainability consulting for the US Department of Defense. After that, I moved on to Northrop Grumman's corporate sustainability team and was there for a few years before moving to HPE. I'm assuming a lot of folks are familiar with the history of HPE, but we have a very long history within Silicon Valley. Corporate citizenship is baked within our roots. So Bill and Dave, I'll paraphrase a quote, but there's a quote that's even like flashed in our headquarters when we could still go in regularly, but that the betterment of society is not responsibility of a few, but rather is a responsibility to be shared by all. So I probably messed that up a bit, but that sentiment comes through in every aspect of what we do. And our company's mission is to really advance the way people live and work and to be a force for good. So within the Living Progress team, we really try to embody that mission. The Living Progress team is really where we set the company's environmental strategy, but also social and governance strategy, ESG. I especially focus on a lot of our initiatives having to do around climate. So what the slide in front of you are some of our climate goals. So in general, you know, we are trying to set goals across all of HPE's value chain. So including GHG reduction goals for our supply chain, for our operations, and for other aspects of our company, including our logistics and transportation, as well as our product use phase. Since joining HPE, my primary focus has been really trying to get all of our climate goals aligned with climate science, and especially aligned with the 1.5 degree trajectory that was kind of highlighted in the IPCC report that came out in October of 2018. So our 55% reduction goal in Operation GHG emissions by 2025 compared to 2016, we were one of the first companies to align our science-based targets with that new 1.5 degrees Celsius trajectory. And our goals are approved by the Science-Based Target Initiative. We also have a goal of procuring 50% of our electricity from renewables by 2025, reducing our supply chain emissions by 15%, and then also increasing the product performance of our portfolio by 30 times. So that's a goal focused on our product use phase and is really important for our customers. Which our customers increasingly so, and this has really even picked up in the last few years, are more and more looking for partners and companies to purchase from, to partner with, that will also help them on their climate goals and their kind of climate path to a low carbon economy. So how did I come into interaction with BCL? It was a few years ago that the Silicon Valley Leadership Group and BCL, I believe, partnered to try to get a group of tech companies to start to publicly advocate for putting a price on carbon, and to say this publicly, more or less. It's been a few years in the making, but in general, our process has been, you know, we would meet frequently. We did undertake a study where we tried to assess the impact of what putting a price on carbon would look like to a technology company. And I think the results of that were very encouraging. And as a result, through a lot of internal stakeholder engagement, we were able to move to have within HPE's climate policy the fact that we support a set of carbon pricing principles. So HPE at this point in time has not supported any one piece of legislation, but there are a set of 11 carbon pricing principles that we now have publicly support in our climate policy, which is publicly available. And that took a lot of internal convincing and maneuvering, as you can imagine. So, but I think that was a big win for us. And we are increasingly kind of leaning into our advocacy work, which I suspect will be picking up in the next few years.
That's great. And I am so very happy that we have companies like yours on the vanguard of this effort. For our volunteers, a lot of people are really good at this, but most of them are a little bit shy and they feel intimidated by the idea of reaching out to and engaging with businesses. I'm wondering if you had any thoughts about what might help them expand their comfort zone in this realm. That's for both of you.
Courtney, do you want to start?
Sure, I can jump in. You know, I think that one of the things that's always important to do is find the sympathetic ear within the organization. You know, we at our organization have a head of sustainability. We call it regenerative development. And she's primed to hear from folks. In fact, that's how we got connected with BCL. And that's how I'm here today. So I would say do your research. LinkedIn is a great place to begin, and recognize that what may be sort of busy, another email to answer for someone is a diamond to someone else who is passionate about this work within the organization and literally there to help carry it forward. It may not always be as obvious as, you know, a place that has a full-time sustainability executive, but you can think about other folks who may work in adjacent areas and certainly operations. So that's my first thought. I know Shannon has some additional things to add as well.
Yeah, I think before reaching out to a company, what I find really helpful is to kind of review their publicly available sustainability reports or whatever they have published on their webpage, just so you can get kind of a feel for how they're approaching sustainability, kind of what their philosophy is and what the language they're using to tie it to their business objectives. And I think that the most effective kind of like cold call communications coming in towards our team is when there's something kind of specific to our company that's mentioned. So for example, quite frequently HPE gets reached out by, renewable energy developers. And so if there's a particular site or infrastructure that they're aware of that they mention, that's really helpful. At HPE, our climate strategy is really focused on kind of, this opportunity driven, leading the way to a new carbon economy transformation, helping our customers. I think the more when you reach out and kind of show how whatever it is you're hoping to achieve can help that company achieve its objectives, the easier it'll be to get a response.
It kind of reminds me, we are really good at getting our letters to the editor published, We Citizens Climate Lobby, and it's, if you can hook that letter content on something that the paper wrote in their editorial, something that means something to them, they'll recognize it, they'll appreciate that you're echoing or supporting their comments, and increases the likelihood. One of the thoughts I've had too is that you might get a lot of email, and I don't know how many times you might have not read an email from somebody like me, but wish you could have. One case for me, it took me 1.5 years to finally get through to somebody, and it was because of a 3-step connection, degrees of separation from a relative. And I don't know, would you have anything to say about that? Because we have to be persistent and patient with this. And from your point of view, what does that look like for people who are coming to you with products or ideas?
We get bombarded, I think, in general. So anyone in the sustainability profession in a corporation, you have to learn patience and perseverance, and kind of that gentle, not so hard that you upset someone. And this is true even in my position working with other groups. You don't want to come across too aggressive to the point where you alienate someone, but that kind of just gentle, consistent encouragement or persistence can really go a long way.
Yeah, Shannon, anything to?
I think that one thing I wanted to make sure I also addressed, I was just keeping an eye on the chat. And I think Shannon had some really great points on that previous one. I had a question about why did you talk about Fetzer Vineyards and not reducing carbon? So I'm happy to address that as well. And I think it's also important to give folks an overview of who we are. But in terms of our why do we care? The wine industry is, unsurprisingly to most of you, just like all of us as humans, under direct assault from the climate crisis. So wine grapes, we use a certain type of grape called Vitis vinifera that's only available for cultivation between about 30 degrees and 50 degrees north and south of the equator latitude. So when you think about the particular areas where the climate crisis is coming to the fore, we certainly experienced wildfires in California in the last several harvests. We're wine of origin. We're wine from a particular place, and are very, we're also a single ingredient product, I'll add. So we don't have a diversified supply chain. There's not a lot of air cover for us. We are where we are, and we're under threat. So I also wanted to just say, in terms of why we're reducing carbon, it's the same reason that HPE is reducing carbon and all of you are on this conversation today. This is a massive existential threat and it's a direct business threat to us. So in terms of the ways that we're reducing carbon, the main vehicle that we have is regenerative agriculture. So we're looking at ways that we can reduce all scopes of emissions throughout our business. We have a long way to go. We certainly want to look at product end of life and upstream in our supply chain. We have been converting folks, growers in our supply chain. We now have a 90% certified organic or sustainable grape supply chain, which has taken several years of effort. And we're not going to stop there. So I think that when you look at the ways that we run our business efficiently and the way that we're looking to continue to conduct soil research to confirm how much carbon insetting we're able to do so we can have a realistic picture of where we need to go to become climate positive. Those are all the things that we're doing in the background. And then we're looking at advocacy work to really take everything further and go so much further than where we are. We have a goal to pioneer climate positive winemaking, and we want to spread the good news and the particular tactics of what we're doing within our industry. And then we can go beyond our industry to have a much larger impact by participating in conversations just like this one today, and just like those we do with the lawmakers. And I just got to thank you, direct message the person who asked me to address this. So I hope that was also informative for the rest of you. And thank you for the nudge. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and you know, we've got the Congressional Wine Caucus. You know, others may not, but there's like 150 or 180 some members of Congress who are in that wine caucus. So we're actually trying to get through to them and get the founder of that group, Mike Thompson, our congressman here, to host a briefing on carbon fee and dividend in the coming months. And that's one of the things that Courtney and a lot of the other local wineries are helping us with. Questions in the chat, Carl or Jennifer? Is there anything in there that you want to bring up? We've got.
Yeah, I'll jump in, Carl, thanks. One question is in terms of, you know, we're out there approaching companies to engage on carbon pricing policy. So from your perspectives, what is it about carbon pricing, whether it's the Energy Innovation Act, carbon fee and dividend, what is it that makes sense to you as a business? Why this is something that other businesses should be interested in supporting?
Well, so for HPE, again, all of our climate goals are trying to align with the climate science and to get us to the 1.5 C degree trajectory. And one of the key things that is stated over and over again to set the world on that path is to support putting a price on carbon. The other thing, kind of like the reframing of the the climate conversation we've had within the company, and this has really been driven by some fantastic work that's come out of the investment community. There's a kind of a framework and a set of recommendations published by the TCFD where they talk about understanding the kind of like long-term value your business strategy will provide in a climate future, one where there's no mitigation or one where there's really strong mitigation, and understanding both the risks and opportunities with both scenarios. So HPE for the last several years has been engaging in this exercise and understanding the risks and opportunities of doing nothing with regard to climate versus full, you know, climate action mitigation and setting us on that 1.5 degree C pathway. And we found that there's way more opportunity with acting and mitigating climate. And so the business opportunities from kind of this transformation in the economy, transformation to a low carbon economy is really beneficial. And so that was part of kind of the push for supporting putting a price on carbon and supporting these principles. So some of the things and the principles are economy wide, that it enhances competitiveness, that it also kind of reduces the need for other regulations, that it harmonized kind of disaggregated kind of climate or carbon pricing schemes that are within the United States. And HPE in general, a lot of our new kind of solutions. So just another point of clarification based off of some of the questions, there might be confusion what HPE is. We don't make the printers and the personal laptops. HPE is in kind of the hybrid cloud, edge compute, you know, so we're really a B2B ICT company at this point. And so a lot of our new solutions around GreenLake, consumption-based service models that solve for over provisioning, increasing utilization, asset take back services. So there was a question about end of life. We have an entire business unit that focuses on just asset recovery of our systems. And actually during COVID-19 and some of the supply chain disruptions, there was an increase for that service, which is really incredible. Our investment in memory-centric computing has the capacity to really unlock compute power without increasing energy demand, and also focusing on edge computing. So instead of having to kind of transmit things to the cloud and losing energy in that space, handling compute at the edge. So we really view all of this as the way that tech is going, but it also has a very significant impact on energy and climate. And so we really view this as a business opportunity.
That's fantastic. That stuff, I love that geek out stuff about edge computing, and we can even talk about blockchain maybe. But I had one question, if there's nothing else super pressing. And recently, I haven't worked with you, Shannon, in this regard, but Courtney agreed to attend a meeting that the CCL chapter had with Jared Huffman, who is the representative for Northern California, basically Northern Coastal California. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that and what that's like for you as a business and what it could be like for us as volunteers in trying to influence our members of Congress without necessarily having to go public in endorsing a particular bill, which you guys have done, by the way. So,
Right. I mean, look, anytime we have an opportunity to connect with our congressional leaders, especially about something that's so directly germane to our business as the climate crisis, it's a huge opportunity for us. And we are really grateful for the environment that BCL created to allow us to have that conversation that day. Of course, we were there because we recently signed the wine industry's climate declaration, which, you know, advocates for climate action and carbon pricing, and acknowledges the incredible risk that the climate crisis presents to our industry specifically. You know, I just wanted to acknowledge Shannon's comments about the opportunities the tech sector sees around, you know, looking at, you know, engaging around carbon pricing and having a future that looks really climate smart. And we would love to be that optimistic. I think that based in agriculture, we're really in an acute phase right now. Yet we are also optimistic because we see tremendous potential, especially within healthy soil work. There are a lot of healthy soil legislation matters that we advocate for in person and through letters to the editor and all sorts of other ways. But back to the wine industry's climate declaration, you know, asking Congress to enact bipartisan legislation like the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act. We're here for those moments because they couldn't be more essential to us. What I think is wonderful about having those conversations with the lawmakers themselves is how open they are. And one of the things I really appreciated in that meeting and in other meetings is that once we have an opportunity to share our thoughts and our recommendation, you know, the lawmakers take a step back and it's like a download of what's coming to the extent that they can share. And that is such an incredible privilege to have an ear in that and to see those openings to even influence them. And so they're listening to what you're telling them at that moment and your agenda for the day. And they're also giving you an opportunity to influence ahead and to get a sense for what's coming. And so you can get better prepared. So it's really a truly symbiotic relationship that you're building over the course of these conversations. And I really think that more than anything, there are opportunities to learn. If you really pay attention, they're talking to you and they're telling you where they're going. They might even be asking for help. You know, for groups just like this one to get organized and to get ready and to get your messaging in order and bring in your partners, like your business partners, so that we can have a greater impact and help them steward their legislation, even if it's not yet crafted, forward and get bipartisan buy-in.
That's a great summary. And so you're all encouraged, folks in the audience, to not only get endorsements and get letters signed, but getting them into those meetings, vet them and make sure they're comfortable with it. Very, very powerful. Well, we are at 2:31. So Carl, and those of you who are officially in charge, do what you need to do. But I want to thank our guests for not only being here today and what you've done in the past, but what I expect you'll be doing in the next couple of months as we get a good, strong carbon fee and dividend bill through this Congress and onto Joe Biden's desk.
Yeah, I want to echo Bruce's thanks and we've got just a couple of minutes left. So if each of you feel like you want to share like a closing thought, maybe starting with you, Courtney, and then
We going to 2:35 or 2:30?
2:35.
Sorry about that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. No, that's good.
Yeah, in closing, I think that last query, thank you very much, was really, I think, a great one for me to have a chance to respond to. I also see a question in the chat about how does our Chilean parent react when we engage on the issue of sustainability and climate? Our parent company, Viña Concha Toro, is extremely focused on sustainability as well and is recognized for their own initiatives. And in fact, will soon become the world's largest certified B Corp winery, eclipsing us. But we're in the holding company. And so we've actually kind of influenced up and influenced them, which is very cool. And I think speaks to the power of what we're doing here in California at Fetzer Vineyards. That's it.
Shannon?
Shannon.
Closing thoughts. There's a lot of work to do. I was actually kind of distracted by a question about setting commitments for net zero by 2050 and just how our company is going to get there. And I think it's maybe when approaching companies, even ones that have made these commitments, acknowledging that we're still in the process of developing a roadmap to get there. And so I think the more kind of pressure and encouragement to reach outside the bounds of comfort, but at the same time being supportive with ideas, like the more it'll be easier to approach and you'll have a kinder reception, because this is really challenging. I mean, as you all know, this is really challenging work. And I wish I had more time to answer some of these questions in the chat, but just thank you all for your time.
Well, we can save the chat and
yeah,
pass
exactly.
them along.
I was just going to say thanks, Shannon, for the close, and we will definitely save the chat and make it available to both you and Courtney for any follow-up responses you want to play. Because you're right, there's a ton of great questions flying by. So, all right, well, thank you both so much. Really greatly appreciate you taking the time out on, especially on a Saturday afternoon. And with that, for the folks that have joined us in this session, just so you're aware, you probably already know this, but I'll share my screen so that you can see kind of what's up next. Unfortunately, this is not a live link, right? Because I'm just sharing screen. But if you just type in cclusa.org/CA, if you don't already have the program schedule up in front of you, that's how you find out where to go next. So you've got 10 minutes for a bit of a stretch break. And again, thank you both for joining us. We super appreciate your time, and that was a great conversation. Thanks again.
And thanks to all our guests, all of you CCL members out there. Keep up the great work. We love you.
Indeed.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.
You gonna close it off there?
Well, I'm going to stop the recording for now, at least. Which I guess I have to.